I wish you all good morning, and I hope you have been enjoying the beauties of Dubrovnik. It was a fantastic, really social event yesterday with the museum, the city walls. So I had to try to insert some serious work while enjoying all the beauties of the city and taking us into something a bit more serious. So I've chosen to speak to you about an emerging topic, which is fraudulent ship registration. And this will take me through some issues that I will focus on. Starting, I guess, with some terminology. I will also touch on what the international conventions say on the topic. There will be also a stop in terms of how fraudulent registration of ships can affect private law disputes. A word really, or some developments on the issue of economic or political sanctions, which form the background to why perhaps this topic has suddenly emerged or re-emerged in the international arena, and some conclusions. So to begin with, fraudulent registration of ships. The term fraud usually conveys an element of criminality, of deceit. And I think that we might want to expect to see that in the various ramifications of the subject when it is being discussed. So fraudulent in law conveys an element of deceit. And of course, it can lead to criminal penalties because it is a crime ultimately when you defraud someone. And it's usually intended to provide some benefits or gains. And I think we should therefore somehow use this lens to question whether the term fits the purpose of our discussion whenever we come across instances that are referred to as fraudulent registration. There are other terms, of course. The list is quite long. Or there have been instances really of fraudulent registration of ships termed differently. One could talk about the fake registration of ships. So how is that different from fraudulent? Or is that consumed under fraudulent? Dual registration of ships, unlike human beings, ships are by law or by the international law not supposed to be registered in more than one place. Because if they are registered in more than one place, they obviously bear two flags and they become out of the law. The law only recognizes the protection of one flag state. So dual registration has been also documented in these databases, if you like, or these compilations of ships that flout the law when it comes to their registration status. Ships are often deregistered, and when they are deregistered, that can be fine and regular, but they can suddenly become registered nowhere. And that also raises issues of illegality, in the sense that a ship that has no flag is basically a ship that is an outlaw ship also. So there have been a lot of instances where ships hop off one flag, and in the interval between before being registered, re-registered somewhere else, they are in a state of limbo or in a state of illegality because they don't have any flag to go by. So obviously, the fact that there is no flag in itself is an issue. I just alluded to that. We have seen also in the discussion of the topic of fraudulent registry, we have seen the tampering of data emitted by vessels. So vessels are supposed to be emitting electronic data, and usually some kind of identification or geolocation data, like this is just an example, automatic identification system, which is a device that is prescribed on all vessels above a certain tonnage. And there's been tampering of the data emitted by that device. Sometimes it is switched off for long periods of time. Technically, it should never be switched off. And that can also be used as a way to fake the identity of vessels or provide fake trading data concerning those vessels. There have been also terms like the shadow fleet or the dark fleet. And these terms are not gathering international consensus regarding their acceptability, but they tend to refer to vessels that are used or operated in shady circumstances, aka in under flags that do not necessarily fit the requirements of transparency or accountability that is expected by the main players of the international community. In other words, to be practical, nowadays, there's in the background of the economic and political sanctions, the countries that are driving forward these sanctions, predominantly the Western countries, are using or are campaigning against vessels that are trying to carry cargoes that are sanctioned in flags or under flags that do not necessarily or that escape the control of these countries. These are just some fraudulent instances. There are others, of course. There are also registries that are notably fake registries. So imagine offices that provide registration services to vessels or even to seafarers, and that are basically scam operators that flout the law, that don't even have the authority of the states on whose behalf they are operating. So there's quite a bit of terminology, in other words, that we have to sift through. And I can now move to tell you a bit about the international conventions, just the main international provisions. You will recognize that the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, which is not an IMO convention, I will come back to the IMO later, kind of regulates all the activities of the oceans, including shipping. And in Article 91, it lays down the fundamental ingredients for ship registration. it says that the registration of a ship requires a genuine link between the flag state and the ship. That's what I've highlighted on this slide. So this is a conditions sine qua non for a flag state to actually register a vessel. What does the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea say about this? I'll come back to that because I think it's important that we try to decipher the meaning of genuine link. But before we do that, perhaps just to open a bracket on an international convention which has been ill-fated in the sense that it was supposed to be the solution for elucidating the meaning of genuine link, and it was adopted in 1986 under the auspices of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development in Geneva. But that convention never came into force. It still has about 10 countries that have ratified it, including Albania in this part of the world. So I was just checking this morning. And it needs actually 20. I think it needs 20, about 20. So we're very far from the minimum requirement for the entry into force of that convention. Anyway, that convention is really a beautiful instrument of law that has been ineffective. And one of the preambular paragraphs in the convention talks about maritime fraud. So going back to the title of this presentation, it says that, as you can see, combating maritime fraud is part of the objectives of why there should be a system to tighten the control over what ships are being registered and the type of administrations that are undertaking registration services on behalf of the flag state. So perhaps a sad story, and we move to the determination of the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea. This is also quite standard law. It has determined in the Saiga case that the purpose of the provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea on the need for a genuine link between a ship and its flag state is not really to establish criteria by reference to which the validity of the registration of ships in a flag state may be challenged by another state. So it's really what ITLOS is saying, and it said it in the context of a claim brought by Guinea against St. Vincent and the Grenadines following the arrest of a vessel of the latter that was doing certain or involved in certain illegal activities in the coastal waters of Guinea. And Guinea actually contested the claim of St. Vincent and the Grenadines as a proper flag state because it said that there's no genuine link. It tried to argue that there was no genuine link between the vessel and the flag state. And one of the arguments it put forward was that there wasn't really a proper representation by the owners or operators of the vessel in the flag state concern. The tribunal dismissed this claim and basically raised an estoppel against any state disputing the role of a state as a flag state. This is what I think we can take out from this pronouncement of ITLOS. So it's an internal business. It's up to each flag state to determine how they're going to establish that genuine link, which is really kind of preposterous. Basically, no one can question how that is being done by the flag states. I think this is one interpretation, and I could be wrong. But I put that in all respect forward to this audience. So I don't think that we can maybe conclude that the international law does not really enforce very much this link between vessels and the flag states. In private law disputes, there's a case I came across that from Hong Kong that actually looked a bit in a sort of dictum on the issue of flag registration of ships. And one of the justices said in the course of the judgment that if a registration of a ship is fraudulent, and this was basically a cargo claim. So imagine a cargo claim leading to the arrest of a ship, and there was a controversy about who the owner of the vessel is, leading to question marks raised about the propriety of the arrest of that particular ship. And the judge said, if a registration is fraudulent, there would be room for an argument that the fraudulent registration should be ignored and that the person registered as owner by fraud should not be regarded as the registered owner. What I would like to submit to you is that the entries in the registers of ships are usually very much they're very important to be relied on. We rely on them for all sorts of purposes. And so if they are fraudulent, then that will lead to all sorts of issues. And one of them could be that the ships will not be arrested in a proper fashion because of claims of fraudulent registry. So the issue of fraudulent registration has significant repercussions for not just public law, but also private law matters. This was just one example. I now move to perhaps give you an impression of the extent of the problem. Today, it seems that we have around 300 vessels that are fraudulently linked to flags. And we are talking of about 29 or 30 fraudulent flags around the world. This is taken from IMO data, basically. One could say it's not a lot, but 300 vessels going about where they can affect the coast of and the interests of many countries around the world. So it is not an inconsequential phenomenon. And it could be that these figures are underestimated. Yes, in terms of the background to this, I think that, as I alluded to you earlier, why we're talking of fraudulent registration of ships today, because I think it's always been there. There have always been instances of shady or fraudulent practices in various places around the world, including in registry offices in far-gone countries. But why is this now such a topical theme? I think it's linked to the rise of sanctions, political sanctions against countries like Russia in the aftermath of the invasion of Ukraine. And we have an instance here of the Council Regulation number 833 that has been recently actually amended, that says that, just was as an example, So vessels registered under the flag of Russia, they do not have access to the territory of the Union. And in paragraph 2 of the article that you see on the slide, it says that the prohibition of access to the territory of the European Union applies to vessels that have changed their Russian flag or their registration to the flag or register of any other state after 2022. So it becomes incumbent on EU authorities now to check about flags. And when this is coupled with issues of or claims that some flags are doing business in a fraudulent manner, you can see how it is all linked up. So now basically there's a crackdown on the flag situation of vessels. I now turn to the IMO, the International Maritime Organization, which is a specialized agency of the UN. Why the IMO suddenly has taken perhaps hold of this topic? One could recall that the IMO, first and foremost, has not developed any regulatory instrument on the question of the process of ship registration. There is no international convention. There's not even a soft law instrument, really, that regulates the process of registration of ships. It was traditionally seen as of no concern to IMO, maybe because it was considered to be economic rather than safety or safety related. But you can see in the middle of this slide, I have quoted the text of the mandate of the IMO that stems from the convention establishing the IMO, that says that IMO is competent over technical matters of all kinds affecting shipping engaged in international trade. It adds maritime safety, efficiency of navigation, and prevention and control of marine pollution from ships, as well as administrative and legal matters. Okay, all of this now has to be placed in the background of why the IMO is suddenly interested maybe in this topic. One should recall also that in 2024, there was an IMO Assembly resolution. So the Assembly is the highest organ of the IMO, and it's not a resolution with a lot of legal effect. It's just it's a resolution that is really placing nice intentions, asking member states of the IMO to turn their attention to the issue of flags and fraudulent registries. And it refers, or it uses the words dark fleet and shadow fleet. And it somehow links these issues with the violation of safety and environmental regulations. So there you see the link between fraudulent registration of ships and substandard shipping. And I think that the legal committee will elaborate on that and you'll see that in a later slide. So this is just the continuation of the IMO Assembly resolution. I will not really go into that because these are just the instances where the IMO Assembly is basically saying that fraudulent registration of ships in terms of a dark fleet or the shadow fleet can lead to all these instances of illegal operations vis-a-vis the IMO conventions. So the legal committee, as I said, recently decided to step up its work and to now launch a study of substandard shipping. It's a bit independent of fraudulent registration. So now there's like a new mandate of the legal committee. But it kind of flows, as I said, from the political background that I just explained to you. Conclusion-wise, I can say that I think this fraudulent registration has always existed, but it is now a political issue. It could also threaten safety and the environment, of course. We know that because these these ships are not necessarily run to the highest standards. But I think what we see also is that the liberal system of shipping being so opaque, that could be now, that we may be seeing the end of that, where states are now wanting to check into the veil of registration. And it may very well be that we will no longer have this freedom of registration, of freedom of, if you like, flag hopping, or even the genuine link. I think the genuine link is part of the problem because it's always been so loose. And I think I would like to end it there. Thank you very much.